With us now is Andy Zaminidis. Andy, tell us about this event today.
This is an event honoring OXI Day, which is marks the entry of Greece into World War II. And it was much more than that. It was much more than the Greek battle against the Nazis and the Axis. It actually was the first victory over the Axis in World War II.
Andy, this is most fascinating, and of course, learning from history is essential. Tell us about the cooperation you have for this event with the AJC.
The AJC is our closest partner. It's a group like us dedicated to justice and the fight against tyranny. And that's what the spirit of OXI Day is about. It was a day when President Franklin Roosevelt said that OXI Day was a point when the world had lost all hope, when they thought that the German monster was invincible, that the Greek people gave the fighters of freedom hope again, showing that the Nazis were not invincible, and they raised a proud spirit of freedom. And we work with the AJC because that's what the AJC has stood for. It stood for freedom and human rights and the fight against tyranny, and that's the values that we share.
Andy, what does OXI Day mean today?
It means that we have to recall the courage of the Greeks who took a 3 a.m. ultimatum from tyranny, from Axis aggression, and said no. And we have to answer with our own no to the forces of tyranny today, whether they are in the form of the Turkish occupation forces in Cyprus, of ISIS, in the form of neo-Nazis across Europe, or in the form of Hamas. We have to say OXI, because tyranny is coming to our door.
You're 100% right. We all need to learn the lessons of history. Thank you so very much. Let's celebrate.
Let's celebrate. Let's celebrate OXI Day and keep the spirit of OXI Day alive.
Absolutely, sir.
We hope you go beyond the facts and get a sense of the spirit of OXI Day, a spirit that is relevant to the world we face today. To start our program, please allow me to welcome OXI Janulius.
Thank you, George. Thank you all for being here, and before I introduce our next speaker, I just want to especially mention two people. One is Andy Zaminidis, who is the force behind tonight, is the force behind our community. We're so proud of him, and if we all had his passion and his shared values, our community would be that much stronger. So, Andy, thank you for putting tonight together. Thank you for all your hard work. And I also want to mention our special guest tonight, Minister Kikilias, who I had the pleasure and honor of playing at Panionios with Vasily a long time ago. And let me just tell you, he's one of the fiercest competitors you'll ever meet, one of the smartest people you'll ever meet, a huge heart, incredible talent. He will be Prime Minister one day, so don't forget his name. But most importantly, he keeps on coming back and spending time with us, and he's part of our community, going to Boston, New York, was in D.C. We haven't seen Greek elected officials come back too often, so we're very proud of you. I love you, and don't forget us here in Chicago. Let's have a round of applause for Minister. Many of you have heard me talk about my roots and my origins. And I am very proud to be the son of a mother from Crete, who's here tonight, and a son of Kalavrita, where my father was from. And in December of 1943, in the massacre of Kalavrita, the Nazis came through and murdered the entire adult male population. And they burned down village after village. And the only reason that my father was able to escape was because he was a child. In Crete, the same thing. After the Battle of Crete, the Nazis exacted vicious revenge on Cretans just for helping out the Allied troops. These horrifying massacres that none of us could ever fathom or want to think about happened. They didn't happen that long ago. So I think it's important that all of us are here. I think it's important that all of us never forget what took place. We make sure that we teach our kids and grandkids about what happened and that we remember that struggle. And I gotta tell you, I am so proud of my ancestors, my parents and my grandparents, just like many of you in this room. Because of them and their willingness to fight back and fight the Nazis and say OXI. That's why we're all here today. So with that, Harry.
It's really a treat to be here. And Andy, our board at the American Jewish Committee voted. It was unanimous. You are a force of nature. You are a man to be reckoned with, Eddie, and thanks for putting this together with our Amy Stokin, and I see the two of you are both together. Amy is our executive. First, a little Greek Hebrew lesson. In Greek, ohi is no, ne is yes. Do I have it right? Yes. In Hebrew, let's see if the American Jewish Committee gets it right. Ken is yes, and lo is no. How appropriate. What we're celebrating tonight is OXI Day. It's a pleasure for me to introduce our local diplomatic representation, Greece's Consul General, a friend of ours, Iyana F.C. Miadu. Iyana, please stand. And from the Israeli Council, I want to introduce Maya Carmeli. She is Counsel for Public Affairs from the Israeli Council here in Chicago. Maya, where are you? Emily Berman is here from the Mayor's Office. She is heads up international affairs for the Mayor's Office. And if you look in your book, there are greetings from the Mayor of Chicago. Emily, where are you seated? Welcome. Let's hear it for Emily and the Mayor. I want to also introduce, we have from the Water Reclamation District, a very important body that keeps our water fresh and plentiful, and that's Mariana Spirolopoulos. Where are you, Mariana? Welcome. Nice to meet you, too. We also have a Circuit Court Judge, Peggy Chappis. Please stand. With all those introductions made, I hope I didn't miss anybody. I know that we're going to have, later on, if he's not here already, Congressman from the 10th District, Brad Schneider. And I put in parentheses, the American Jewish Committee is nonpartisan, but he is our Congressman from the 10th District, and I know he'll offer some words later on. I'm going to turn the program over to George. Terrific. And are you related to the judge? I'm starting to connect the dots.
She's a lot younger than I am.
I can tell. Trying to be very diplomatic. I just want to say a special thanks to the American Jewish Committee people who traveled here from afar to come in for the diplomatic marathon. We're privileged to have Alan Rich here and Jason Isaacson, who will be heading up that marathon with our staff locally. It's terribly important, and it's totally fitting with our mission. So, sincere and warmest thanks.
Thank you very much, Mr. Siegel. Alexei, thank you very much. Most of us are at least one generation removed from World War II and the atrocities that occurred. But you all need to know that our generation and my generation live OXI Day every Saturday. You see, we would go to Greek school every Saturday and our parents would dress us up, make us read poems, and kind of relive those times. And so tonight, for your entertainment, some of us are going to go back to our Greek school days and relive OXI Day in our own words. So please bear with us. I would ask Georgia Logothetis and Bill Fanukos to please step up.
Thank you, George. Hopefully everybody can hear me even in the back. I want to start off by asking, how many of you remember the 2008 primaries? There was an infamous commercial, the 3 a.m. phone call. Remember Hillary Clinton, what she would do if she was awoken at 3 a.m. with a pivotal phone call? Well, a lot of people don't know that the story of OXI Day really is the story of that 3 a.m. phone call. What happened was Greece's prime minister was awakened by his guards in the early hours of the morning. And they told him that Italy's ambassador was there to see him. Well, what was he there for? Mussolini, desperate to keep up with Hitler's conquest, zeroed in on Greece. It was strategic. It was important. And so what happened? Greece became key to Italy dominating the Mediterranean region. Now, before October 28th, and this is very important, Mussolini admitted that invading Greece was, quote, an operation which I have thought over for months and months before my entry in the war, even before the outbreak of the war. Just so that you get a sense of how coveted that conquering of Greece was. So here was Metaxas, 3 o'clock in the morning, and he had an ultimatum that was delivered to him. And the ultimatum was this: allow the Italian army to enter your country and occupy Greece unopposed. That was the critical 3 a.m. call, so to speak. And Bill will walk us through the answer.
So the Axis may have woken Prime Minister Metaxas up, but they did not catch him asleep at the wheel. Metaxas was doing his best to keep Greece from a direct confrontation with the Axis, but he knew that war was at Greece's doorstep. He maintained a close relationship with the British. He proactively moved Greek troops to the mountain region, the border near Albania, because Metaxas knew this was coming. On September 2nd, he wrote that he was, and I quote, determined to make war to the end in order not to succumb to Italian demands. Greece's decision is to defend itself to the end and to sacrifice itself rather than succumb. So now faced with this Italian demand for Mussolini, Metaxas delivered an unequivocal response. Then it is war. This was quickly translated into OXI, the Greek for no, by the citizens of Athens.
Thank you, George and Bill. The next phase is the fight and the fall. And I'll ask Lukas Kazonis to come up and Eunice Buell.
At 5:30 a.m., even before Italy's ultimatum had expired, Mussolini's army poured over the Greek-Albanian border in the mountainous Pindos region of northern Greece. Mussolini's advisors had assured him that the invasion of Greece would take no more than 2 weeks. However, the Axis powers underestimated the Greeks' resolve. On October 28, 1940, after rejecting Mussolini's demands, Metaxas addressed the Greek people. Invoking the historic Greek victory of Salamis, Metaxas ended with this line from Aeschylus' play The Persians: The struggle now is for everyone. Called upon again to wage a fierce fight against all odds, and perhaps inspired by this heroic past, the Greeks responded with enthusiastic demonstrations of support for their nation and its troops. The Greek army, severely undermanned and certainly outgunned, fought so tenaciously that by November 3rd, the Italian incursion had been stalled. By November 13th, Greek forces had regained all the territory lost in the initial invasion, and a day later, the Greek army began a counteroffensive deep into Italian-held Albania. By March of the following year, Italy's original 9 divisions had grown to 28. An enraged Mussolini personally supervised a counterattack designed to drive the Greeks back from southern Albania. The Greeks defeated the Italians again, humiliating Mussolini and handing the Axis powers their first defeat of World War II.
Greece's decision to sacrifice itself rather than surrender would be tested yet again. Stung by Mussolini's defeat, Hitler diverted Nazi forces from his planned invasion of the Soviet Union and instead sent them to the Balkans. The Greeks were already exhausted from war, but they were once again prepared, and their determination was still strong. One instance of that strong determination is the Metaxas line, a chain of fortifications intended to protect Macedonia and Thrace from invasion. These fortifications are so sturdy that they survive to this day, and some are still in active service. On the east part of this line, 150 volunteers from the Greek army, perhaps recalling the Spartans at Thermopylae, decided to hold their ground against the coming German blitzkrieg. A few days before the German invasion, they sent their belongings home and took their last communion. The invasion began on April 6th, and these 150 Greek troops held off the German panzers, supported by airstrikes, for 2 days. They held out to the last man. When the Germans broke through, they found nothing but corpses and were left in such awe that their commander ordered a military burial for the Greeks. The Germans kept coming, and the Greeks kept fighting back. The German invasion would culminate in the Battle of Crete. Greece fell, but not before changing the course of the war. 40% of Hitler's air force was used in Crete, with 250 planes destroyed and another 170 damaged. Greece, like most of Europe, was now occupied. But consider the cost to the Axis. Yugoslavia fell in 11 days, Poland in 30, France in 43, Norway in 61. Greece held out for 219 days. Remarking on this Greek resistance, Winston Churchill said, "Hence, we will not say that Greeks fight like heroes, but that heroes fight like Greeks."
Thank you, Eunice. Thank you, Lucas. Next, we're going to have the Renaissance, and Sofia Constantinou and Father Chrysanthos.
As heroic as Greece's resistance was, it came at a steep price. German revenge was immediate and terrible. At the end of the Battle of Crete, 200 males were executed in the town of Galata. Most of Greece's food stock was seized and taken to Germany. The occupation authorities even imposed a ban on fishing. Over 500,000 Greeks died of starvation during the Nazi occupation. And still they fought. With the aid of the Allies, the Greek resistance launched a guerrilla war that exacted a measure of revenge on the Nazis. The Greek resistance launched 3,000 submersive operations. The guerrilla war resulted in nearly 35,000 Axis casualties, 20,000 of which were Germans. The Greek resistance had German rail lines in 157 locations. It destroyed over 1,000 train cars. It eliminated 17 ammunition and fuel sites. The Nazis would react brutally to every act of sabotage, sending women and children to firing squads, murdering entire male populations in some towns. And still, the Greeks fought. As the Allies prepared for D-Day, the Greek and Yugoslav resistance were so effective that they tied 28 German divisions down in the Balkans. Not only had the Greeks delayed Hitler's invasion of the Soviet Union, they had weakened him on the beaches of Normandy.
The losses suffered by Greece in World War II were staggering. You have heard about the 500,000 deaths from starvation, but Greece lost nearly 10% of its population and nearly its entire infrastructure. The Nazi occupation still had more atrocities to commit. Greece was the home of a historic Jewish population, part of which predated Christ, as well as one of the most significant Sephardic Jewish populations in the world. In 1943, the Nazis began deportations, and Greece lost at least 81% of its Jewish population. Between 60,000 and 70,000 Greek Jews perished, most of them at Auschwitz-Birkenau. Once again, the Greeks resisted, and the resistance was led by their spiritual leader, Archbishop Damaskinos. In contrast to many other religious leaders in Europe who either supported the Nazi policy of extermination of the Jews or did nothing to stop it, Archbishop Damaskinos formally protested the deportation of the Jews. He claimed Greece's Jews as his own flock, noting, and I quote, "In our national consciousness, all the children of Mother Greece are an inseparable unit. They are equal members of the national body, irrespective of religion." When the Nazi commander threatened to execute the Archbishop by firing squad for publishing this letter, Archbishop Damaskinos responded, "According to the traditions of the Greek Orthodox Church, our prelates are hung and not shot. Please respect our traditions." Archbishop Damaskinos proceeded to summon Police Chief Everett of Athens to his own office, and he told him, "I have spoken to God and to my own conscience, and my conscience tells me what we must do. The church will issue false baptismal certificates to any Jew who asks for them, and you will also issue false identification cards." This was yet another oath that really mattered. According to the United States Holocaust Museum, between 8,000 and 10,000 Greek Jews survived the Holocaust, due in large part to the unwillingness of the Greek people, including leaders in the Greek Orthodox Church, to cooperate with the German plans for the deportation of the Jews.
Thank you, Father. Thank you, Sophia. And now I'll ask Andy Zemanides and Amy Stokin to come up and speak about the legacy of OXI Day.
Harry, thank you for your compliments. I don't know if you know what force of nature I've been. In the Greek government, I've been called Hurricane Zemanides, and nothing stands afterwards. But there's also a Greek saying, "Show me your friends and I'll show you who you are." And here's my friend. AJC is our friend. And on OXI Day, it's important to show this friendship. I wanted... Originally, I was going to thank the AJC for celebrating OXI Day again with us. But OXI Day doesn't belong
to me, doesn't belong to Hal, doesn't belong to Alexi, maybe to Mrs. G, but doesn't belong to just a Greek people. It belongs to humanity. It was, as Lucas said, the first Allied victory, not the first Axis defeat, the first Allied victory of World War II. And as I look across the room, I see the legacy of OXI. The AJC members who are going to launch their diplomatic marathon tomorrow and say OXI to Hamas, and say OXI to a nuclear Iran, and say OXI to get another apology to Erdogan. And I see the House members who, joined by a lot of our friends from the AJC, who have for over a week been sending letters and emails to Secretary Kerry saying OXI to get another Turkish invasion of Cyprus and its exclusive economic zone. So, in this relationship, I'm the muscle, the brains and looks are over here. Miss OXI Day, and I'll tell you why she's Miss OXI Day. Her firstborn was born on OXI Day. My fellow graduate of Georgetown Law Center, the class of 2000, who like me got sick of the practice of law and decided to take a lot less money to do ethnic advocacy, Amy Soder.
First of all, apart from what Andy just said, I am so touched and just moved by how many people in the room actually remembered that OXI Day is my son's birthday. So thank you so much. As it's obvious, OXI Day has tremendous meaning to me, and so it is incredibly special to be here with all of you tonight. Over the last few years, AJC has worked closely with HAL, including other joint programs. We also commemorate International Holocaust Remembrance Day together. And that is when we stand with HAL and we say, never again. Now, in the spirit of OXI Day, we remind ourselves that we have the courage to say no. We say no to those who threaten our democratic principles. 2014 has tested our resolve. But we have continued to stand side by side to say no, or OXI, to Hamas, to ISIS, and to Turkey's latest threats against Cyprus, and Erdogan's anti-Israel rhetoric. Like Greece's resistance, we know we have an ongoing struggle to face. At AJC, our commitment to combating injustice is only stronger knowing that HAL has our back, and HAL know we have yours. We started this tradition with HAL knowing very little about OXI Day, and here we are today commemorating this hugely inspiring story with twice the number of people that we had last year. Said, this story means something to all of us. And tonight we celebrate our relationship. And we also pay tribute to the Greeks, both Christians and Jewish, who bore the cost that allow us to be here tonight telling this story. So please join me, AJC and HAL, in our thank you to Greece. And our thank you to Minister Kikilias and to our Consul General Estimazu, and to the relationship between AJC and HAL. Thank you so much. I look forward to many OXI days to come, and with that, I would like to turn this over to Jason Isaacson, our AJC's Director of International Affairs.
Minister, Excellencies, colleagues, dear friends, thank you for offering me the privilege of being part of this OXI Day celebration and this kickoff of a round of important and intensive AJC meetings with Chicago-based diplomats, our Midwest Diplomatic Marathon. With our Hellenic brethren, this evening we not only celebrate events and displays of national honor of the past, paying tribute to the righteous defiance and noble sacrifice of Greek patriots in the face of the Axis powers 74 years ago, we celebrate as well an enduring bond, an increasingly strong and vital alliance between two civilizations, two nations, two peoples, the Hellenes and the Jews. AJC is proud of the contributions that we have made over the years to Greek-Jewish cooperation, advancing this alliance pioneered by two legendary Chicagoans of blessed memory, Andy Athens and Maynard Wishner, is an important element of our international, interreligious, and interethnic agenda. The bonds of friendship and solidarity between our sister communities over the last century or so of European immigration are so natural as to be almost unremarkable. And on policy matters of importance to both of our communities, relating to religious discrimination here or in countries in the Eastern Mediterranean, the settling of bitter regional conflicts, and the assurance of stability and the protection of vital U.S. interests, AJC has been privileged to partner with Greek-American organizations, especially HELP, with community leaders here and in cities across America, and of course with the Greek Orthodox Church. It is against this background of brotherhood and partnership that AJC just last month met privately in Athens and in New York with the heads of government and senior ministers of Greece and Cyprus, a continuation of long-standing and fruitful conversations. We are fully committed to such exchanges at the highest and the broadest levels, and fully supportive of the burgeoning relationship in strategic, energy, trade, technical, and other sectors between Israel and Greece and between Israel and Cyprus. I think it's also always important to note that AJC is not motivated to promote the benefits of enhanced Greek-Cypriot-Israeli ties as a bulwark against the political or strategic influence or ambitions of any other state. There is a natural logic. There are natural synergies and sympathies and values in the deepening interconnection of Greece, Cyprus, and Israel. The mutual discovery and elaboration of these synergies is a dramatically positive development for these countries and their peoples, and for peace and stability in a volatile region. I'd like to close with an expression of profound appreciation to you, Minister Kikilias, for the principled steps taken by Athens to confront extremist, racist, and anti-Semitic forces that have regrettably assumed a place in Greek politics in recent years. The fact that 80% of the leadership of Golden Dawn is now in jail is testament to the Greek government's resolve to fight this mess and its fidelity to the values of democracy that are Greece's enduring gift to all mankind. Thank you. Good evening.
Thank you very much, Mr. Isaacson. One of the greatest accomplishments in the HELC-AJC relationship was the formation of the Congressional Hellenic-Israeli Alliance Caucus. This was an idea that was discussed at a joint HELC-AJC meeting with Congressman Bilirakis in July of 2012, and was launched the following February with the help of our next speaker, Congressman Brad Schneider.
Thank you and good evening. It is a great privilege to be here. Andy, you said something that I think couldn't be more poignant, and especially at the place I am right now in my week. But judge me by the friends I'm surrounded by, and it is so good to be judged by the friends I have in this room. Both AJC, it's good to see. I miss being on the board more than I can possibly tell you, but also how and the friendship between the two organizations, to me, is one of the greatest sources of pride I have in our Chicago community, but also in Congress. It was a great honor a year ago, February, almost 2 years ago now, to be able to be a part of the founding of the Congressional Hellenic Israel Alliance, and the caucus that understands the importance of the friendship between these two countries with the United States. But it is a bond more than countries. It is a bond between people. I go back to the first time Andy and I sat down and talked about our experiences growing up. You talked about Greek school. I can tell you about Saturday school. But the experience of understanding from generation to generation the values that are passed down and the history that is shared. And knowing, as Amy touched on, that in Jewish tradition, we raise our children with a clear understanding of what never again means and working to put that into action. And understanding of what OXI Day means and putting that into action. The ability to say no and stand up to tyranny that we see on march around the world. The resolve to understand that the sacrifice is necessary to push back against others who are trying to change the world or take it down a path that does not reflect the freedom and independence and integrity of people and of nations and of sovereign nations at that. That's why we must stand up to Turkey and say no to an invasion of Cyprus. That's why, as a nation, we stand up and say no to Hamas and their unrelenting assault on Israel this summer. And Israel's right to defend it. That's why, as an international community, we understand we have to stand up, push back, contain, defeat the evil of ISIS. These are the things we stand for as a nation. But we as a nation reflect the values we bring together as a mosaic of people. And the integration of the Greek community and the Jewish community, the shared history, and the shared understanding that from history comes our future is what's so important. So I just am privileged to be here. I am proud to count you as among my friends. And I look forward to working together to make sure that never again isn't a hollow promise, that no isn't but a memory, but that going forward, we're working to make our world a better place. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Congressman. Please allow me to welcome Maya Carmeli for greetings from the Israeli Consulate in Chicago.
Shalom. The Honorable Minister Kikilias, Consul General Yona, and my friends Amy Stokin and Harry Sage from AJC, and of course Andy Zimenides from the Hellenic and American Leadership Council. Distinguished guests, Kalispera. Erev Tov, good evening. I want to say that I'm very honored to be here today for OXI Day. This is a very meaningful day for Greece, and this is the day that Greece, of course, this was the first day for Greece in World War II, and this is a day that when Greek really refused letting reality just change without a fight and saying no. In those dark days, every no meant something. Every no was important. Actually, I've been here almost 4 years, and I have to say most of the events that I've done with other consulates and other communities were with the Greek community. And there's really a wonderful collaboration between our two diasporical communities. We've been to events to celebrate our cultures, events to celebrate academic collaborations. We've also been to events to honor the Archbishop Damaskinos as the righteous among the nation. And we've been to an event to commemorate the tragedy of Hellenic, where 60,000 Jews that were deported, most of them died. I want to also mention that these days we're facing an alarming rise in anti-Semitism all across Europe. And we know about all the efforts that the Greek government is doing to face this grave challenge. Our governments are working together to face this challenge. And I think that this is really another challenge that is important that we're facing together. But we have to remember all the lessons of the past. We heard all the things that we said no in the past. And I think when there is anti-Semitism, it's important to say OXI, to say no. I really do hope that we'll have more events to celebrate our culture, sport, and academic than to have to face with those challenges. So I'll finish with that. Thank you very much. Good luck.
Thank you, Councilor. No diplomat has worked harder on encouraging the relationship between the Greek and Jewish diasporas here in the United States than our own Consul General Ioanna Athena. Please welcome her to introduce our next speaker.
Thank you, Drew. So, good evening to everybody. I have to say that this is a real, okay, and he says, speak up, okay. That's a real honor and privilege to welcome again Minister now Kikelias in less than a year, and also to be amongst friends to celebrate OXI Day and have all these distinguished guests, not least of them, the AJC people from Midwest that I have the pleasure of meeting for 3 years now, which counts that this is my 4th year. And I can tell you that I still remember, and maybe that's a line I repeat, that when I first arrived and we started having our joint events, I was mentioning that if I'm doing a good job, that would mean that by the end of my term here, the two communities, because it's important to know that people is what matters, and the community is what matters. If the two communities have strong bonds amongst them, so they don't really need me or Maya at all to get together, and they just need Andy and Amy, and actually not even them. They get together regardless of the leaders, because we have established solid people-to-people contacts. And I can tell you that actually that inspired our leaders, and they moved so fast that actually in 2 years' time, I wouldn't be needed for this anymore. And so now I see this is so solid, we're even creating traditions, celebrating the OXI Day together. And what's important to stress, though I think almost everything has been mentioned, that's a problem if you are like one of the last to speak or your lines are stolen. What's important to mention is yet another Greek paradox, because all European countries that kind of commemorate World War II, they commemorate either victories or the end of a war. There is none that actually commemorates the beginning of the war. This is supposed to be a bad thing. It's a suffering brought upon you. So why this Greek paradox, I think, has already been answered. Because it's the proof of our resolve to fight against an evil that seemed to be invincible back then, and against an evil that many big nations, much bigger nations, decided to turn a blind eye on or surrender to have an easy life and maybe save their infrastructure and the lives of their peoples. But we decided otherwise. This resolve is what we commemorate. And that's why if you go on Google and you put OXI Day, you will see pictures from October 1940 where soldiers were almost smiling and they were very enthusiastic going to fight, because that was a joint fight and that was a joint resolve to defend our country, our values, our way of life. And that's why this common commemoration makes such sense, because our nations, our peoples, they faced the evil. We knew what evil was, and we decided to defend ourselves. We decided not to be bystanders. And that's important to our history. Because, of course, I'm a diplomat, we have many diplomats, proper diplomats or real diplomats working in diplomacy amongst us tonight. And we know that interests are very important in international relations. But trust me, a good, solid foundation of values is what brings us together and keeps us together. So our common values, our resolve to face evil and threats. And evil is not a matter of the past. The monster is not only in the past.
modern threats are there. We just need to be vigilant, recognize them, and stand up in time so that they are not becoming really, really powerful or they don't swallow us. So that's why our joint commemoration makes such a meaning today. And we couldn't have a better guest here amongst us tonight than Minister Kikilias. And don't fool yourselves by his young age. He has many accomplishments in sports. I should know because Paniones is from my hometown, Smyrni, but okay, that's a private jokes for great. I'm an Olympiacos fan. Sorry, guys. Here he is revealed. And he has already an outstanding career, not only in sports or in medicine, but also in politics, be it local with Athens or the central political scene, like we say, in the parliament, and now a minister heading one of the most important and most sensitive for keeping our democracies ministries, the ministry that combines actually homeland security and intelligence together. And because there is no democracy without security, and we all know that both in Greece, in Israel, in Cyprus, and in the US. So, Minister, that's a great honor to have you here tonight amongst us.
Okay. This podium is made for Mr. Fimiato, not for me. So I got a great speech here, but it's useless, worthless, because it's too far from it, but I don't mean it. So, Congressman, Alexander, dear friends, what a privilege and an honor for me to be here, second time in a row. And Andy and Amy, you invited me last year, and somebody asked, well, why would a young politician, member of parliament last year, get in a plane or two and fly to the US and Chicago just for an hour and then go back home? Well, dear friends here, young kids that talked about OXI Day, men and women, that ancestors, second generation, third generation, well, they were in the boat and traveled for 40 days to get to the US for their dreams and their lives and maybe the possibility of a better future. So, with great pleasure and an honor, I went to the plane last year, and I'm back here this year to be with you. And yeah, the normal thing would be for a Minister of Public Order to be at home today. But I'm feeling great being here, and since everybody has talked in an inspiring way about OXI Day in the past, and let's think that whoever forgets its past, their past, has no future. I will not go back. Those were beautiful, inspiring words. And what I have to do, I think, is talk about the present and the future. So, what is happening nowadays in Greece and in Israel? Well, Greece, 6 years of incision. Greece has lost 30% of our GDP. We got 29% unemployment, 50% unemployment in young ages. And everybody would think that, well, we will already be out of Europe, Brexit. But as you very well know, us and our friends from Israel, I think we have a different DNA. We were born to be fighters. So, despite all that, we accomplished a surplus way before the economic problem, 1 year before. And we went out in the markets 2 years before the problem. And primarily, we hosted this summer 21 million tourists without a problem. And we're a safe country. And yes, the phenomenon of neo-fascism
brought memories from the past that everybody would want to forget, but Prime Minister Samaras and his cabinet and the nation were determined to break even real quick. So, yes, Mr. Harrison, we are the only European country that has put politicians that are fascists in jail. That is the truth. The European Parliament, they're fascists. They move around Europe talking about their ideas, supposedly their ideas, but we were active and quick, and we brought to the Parliament a new anti-racist law legislation, and well, things are getting better day by day. But we don't forget, we truly understand and remember what was happening back in the days. Nazis, the Axis, our problems, our challenges, the big OXI that we said back then, even further back with Thermopiles and the 300, OXI, Epiro against Italians, etc., etc. But now the war is economic in Greece, and it's a big challenge for us. And you know, we're seeking help wherever we can find it. Here, diaspora. Here, second, third generation Greek Americans, people that have succeeded, have done well, inspire us, and that's why I keep traveling here to get power and energy from you and go back home and keep on fighting. And maybe please talk about, real quick, about a few of these friends of mine. Personally, I don't really believe in political relationships. I don't believe in professional relationships, and truly I don't really believe in social relationships. But I honestly, truly, and 100% believe in human relationships. And like a true friend, I'm here and I stand across Alexis Giannoulias. He was my teammate in Panionios. He's a good friend. I was here back in 2008 when he was running. Well, I guess two guys from the same team, one state treasurer, the other minister. There was something with the Gatorade, I don't know. So I'm glad to see that he's doing great. He was an inspiration to us all back home and still is, and he's a true friend of mine. And the other half of him, Andy Zemeniris, Andy's a Red Bull, he's a true fighter, and what a big inspiration to, I mean, there are battles that many people think that cannot be won. I believe, and he believes, that the only battles that cannot be won are the ones we don't give. So he's a great fighter. Hulk is doing great work, and I'm glad I'm back here every year to celebrate with him OXI Day and with you. And that's only half percent. That's only 50%. The other 50% is AJC. Well, I've traveled to Israel again and again. First as a basketball player. I've lived in a kibbutz, Hapoel Galil Lyon, Hapoel Ramat Gan, Maccabi Tel Aviv, Haifa, Jerusalem, almost everywhere. I've seen everything. And then faith and destiny brought it like, and I'm traveling again in a course. And seeing people that are true, real fighters. They went in a place in the desert, no water, no resources, surrounded by enemies, and they made it. And they got the second Silicon Valley there, and they're doing great. And when people thought that they were alone, they proved that they aren't. And actually, Andy, we also proved that they aren't. And this cooperation, this working together, AJC and all, Israelis and Greeks, here in Washington with the caucus, back home, it's very, very inspiring. It shows that, well, if somebody's alone, it doesn't matter how talented he is, he can make one step, two steps, and that's it. But people united under a common cause can do miracles. And this is what is happening here today. And I feel that this is the message of OXI Day. is people believing in difficult stuff, and visualizing, dreaming of ahead, and doing things that seem to be very, very difficult, almost impossible, and making things happen. And then generations after generations talking about it. So we were talking about OXI Day back then. I really, really wish that this cooperation, this hand-in-hand friendship is something that we will be talking about in the years to come. Once again, thank you very, very, very much for having me here. And one promise. Last year, Amy, remember I promised that it wouldn't be just words, because I know that politicians have been words, 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 sometimes here in the US, in Greece and Israel. Well, like my friend said, the bad guys are behind bars, and we've got plenty of things to do. Thank you very much.